Caution! This video is in bad English, but it's also available in bad German. See the link in the description. Did you ever have the feeling that someone's watching you, even if you are alone? This cannot be, obviously, but still, there is this strange feeling. Well, normally this feeling passes quickly, but some people can't lose it, and so they will develop paranoia. Blair Adams from Canada was a person like that. Or had there really been someone after him? And if not, why did he meet such a terrible end? Paranoia or crazy pursuer? Make up your own mind in this new special edition, Road Trip to Death. Hi folks, a warm welcome to the newest edition of Amazing Facts, y'all. Here is your host Mordecai Ffolkes. Before watching, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a new video. This channel is called Fun and Knowledge, but you probably noticed that most of my wits were fun related. So I'll try to cover knowledge a bit more. There had already been a video about a creepy murder case in Germany. Make sure to watch this too. This time we have a very strange murder case from the United States. Stay tuned to get all the details, find out about all the theories and think for yourself. But now, have fun! A pretty normal guy with friends, colleagues, family, popular, hardworking and trustworthy. But all of a sudden, and seemingly with no reason, his personality changes. He talks about being followed without getting into detail. Until one day he seems to snap, takes all his money and hits the road. A road that will lead him directly to his mysterious death. This is the story of such a man, the story of Blair Adams. The victim. Robert Dennis Blair Adams, born on December 28, 1964 in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada, seemed to be quite an ordinary fellow. Well, it's true, he had some trouble in his youth. He had been convicted for drug abuse and assault, but now, being 31 years old, he worked for a construction company, leading a building team, praised by his superiors, popular with his colleagues and friends. But during springtime of 1996, his friends and his mother noticed some disturbing changes in his personality. He seemed down, bad-tempered, made mistakes at work and got angry when someone pointed them out. 2 years before, his alcohol abuse had become severe and he started going to AA meetings. Successful, as he stayed sober since then. But when his mother asked what bothered him, he just replied that people started to talk behind his back and that, quote, someone followed him, unquote. But when she asked who did that, he replied that he couldn't talk about it. Prologue. These strange changes in the personality of Blair Adams led to a chain of actions that culminated in his untimely death. But let's start at the beginning. On the 5th of July 1996, Blair Adams went to his bank to withdraw all his savings. Additionally, he emptied his deposit box completely. He left the bank with more than $6,000 in Canadian, American and German currency, a lot of jewelry and little bars of gold and platinum that he packed in his fanny pack. Overall, he carried more than $12,000 worth. 2 days later, on July the 7th, 1996, Blair got on a ferry in Victoria on Vancouver Island with a destination Port Angeles, Washington in the United States. But a single traveler carrying huge amounts of money raised suspicion of the Border Patrol, and they denied him access to the ferry as they thought of him as a courier for drug money, especially after he claimed he had no previous drug-related convictions, a lie quickly uncovered by the officers. The very next day, July the 8th, he marched into his boss's office to quit his job. His boss is thunderstruck, but Blair insisted on quitting, leaving the company immediately, not even waiting for the check with his outstanding salary. In the afternoon, he bought an airline ticket for $1,600, a round trip from Vancouver to Frankfurt, Germany. Some time ago he had worked there for his stepdad's construction company, met a woman and lived with her for some time. The flight was scheduled for the very next day, but on the same afternoon he visited a friend, asking her to bring her across the border as someone was trying to kill him. His friend later stated that she was under the impression that he really feared for his life, was even panicking, but she had been unable to drive him as she had other appointments. In the early morning hours of July 9, 1996, he tried again to cross the United States border, this time on foot. But fate was against him. Close to the border, a stolen car had been found and the description of the thief matched. The border officer also noticed that his arms were covered in numerous bruises. He was being held, but after they found out that he was not the person they looked for, they let him go, back to Canada. When he was back in the city, he refunded the ticket and rented a car instead, a Nissan Altima. Now he managed to cross the border and drove to Seattle Airport. There he purchased yet another airline ticket, this time from Seattle to Washington, D.C. The travel agent remembered that he insisted on a one-way ticket, even though he would have saved 50% with a round-trip ticket. He arrived in the capital early the next morning, rented another car, a Toyota Camry, and started his road trip at 6:45 a.m. He managed to get to Troy, Virginia, where he had a little accident on Route 250 when he backed in another car. The other driver described him as very friendly but in quite a hurry. After they exchanged their insurance details, he drove on for 7 hours until 5 p.m. when he reached Knoxville, Tennessee. Remarkable is that Blair Adams seemed not to have any acquaintances in neither Knoxville nor Washington, D.C. We also don't know if Knoxville was his planned destination or just a stop on the way. At 5:30 p.m. he drove on the gas station at Strawberry Plains Pike. There he reported having trouble opening his rental. So the personnel called a tow truck for him. The driver, a man named Gerald Sapp, arrived at the scene where Adams claimed that all of a sudden his key would no longer fit. Sapp noticed that Adams tried to open the Toyota with a Nissan key, probably the key from his other rental that brought him from Canada to Seattle. Sapp told him, quote, "If you drove this hunk of junk up to here, you must have another key," unquote, and asked him to search his pockets, a request that Adams denied. So Sapp had no other choice than to hook the Toyota and drove Adams to the nearest hotel where Adams could wait for the rental company to send him a spare key. Around 7 p.m. Adams arrived at the Knoxville Fairfield Inn. The clerks there noted him as he entered the lobby several times, hesitated and left again, looking around nervously while being filmed on CCTV. Around 7:30 p.m. he finally asked for a room for one night at the reception desk. He paid with a $100 bill, took the key and left the hotel directly without entering his room or even accepting his change. At 7:37 p.m. the CCTV camera took the last picture of him. No one, except for the murderer or murderers, knows what happened that night. When two workers arrived on the construction site next to the I-40 exit Strawberry Plains Pike early in the morning on the next day, they found to their astonishment that lots of American, Canadian and German money bills were blowing over the site. They found a man lying on the empty parking lot, and at first they thought of a homeless person sleeping there. But quickly they noted that it was a dead body, the body of Blair Adams. They called 911 at 7:32 a.m. and the police started investigating. Identification was easy, as the body still carried all its papers. The cops collected around $4,000 in 3 currencies from the scene. They also found Adams' fanny pack that had been opened, but the content, including 130 grams or nearly 5 ounces of gold and platinum and some jewelry, seemed untouched. Taking into account the sum he had needed for his travel expenses, it looked like all his money was still there. Next to his body, the police also found the Toyota key Adams had been missing the day before. Blair's shirt was unbuttoned, his pants and underwear pulled down to his knees. His socks had been turned inside out, lying next to him. Because of all this, police started to consider a sex offense. Police hoped that the autopsy would shed some light on the mysterious case, but when the results came, they brought even more questions. He had numerous smaller bruises and scratches all over his body. Some of them looked like defense wounds, as if he had fought someone. He also had quite a big gash on his head, however, that had not been the cause of his death. Due to his past drug offenses and alcohol abuse, the medical examiners checked his blood carefully but could not find any traces of drugs or alcohol. His mother claimed that he was dry for 2 years. That could be confirmed after examining his liver. They estimated his death time around 3:30 a.m. The cause of death was a ruptured stomach after a single heavy blow in his abdomen. Curiously, a witness reported having heard a loud scream around that time, but that witness was quite sure it had been a woman's scream. A proof for sexual abuse could not be found. The only interesting finding was a strand of hair found in Blair's fist. DNA was extracted from it, but till today no match was found. Police reconstruction. Very few hints and traces were found, so the police was at a loss. After Blair had left the hotel around 7:30 p.m., he must have had a meal somewhere, as the content of his stomach showed. 2 witnesses were found who claimed to have seen Blair that night, one at a truck stop, the other at a place called Cracker Barrel, close to the hotel. Both told the police that a man was with Blair, and a sketch was drawn according to their descriptions. The police never believed that Blair Adams really was followed and killed by someone. Their first theory was an attempted robbery that went out of control when Blair fought back. But why did the robbers leave all the valuables behind? The second theory, a drug deal that went wrong, was even more far-fetched and seemed just to have been conjured up because of Adams' prior convictions. The third theory took into account that his pants had been pulled down. According to it, a prostitute had taken Blair to the empty parking lot and tried to rob him after she noticed the large amount of money her customer was carrying. Maybe her pimp had beat Blair up and the woman had screamed. But the question remained, why hadn't they taken the money? Police was also baffled by the cause of death, the ruptured stomach. Who could use that much force to kill someone with one single blow? To avoid this problem, police thought of another theory, where Blair had been attacked in a car and after a heavy fight got thrown out of the car. During that, the car must have hit him. But again, how do you throw someone out of a car and then run him over in a way to cause a ruptured stomach? Without leaving any traces of the car, no paint, no tire marks, no other heavy injuries? Nothing had been found here. Therefore, this theory is pretty much for the bin. The suspects. Well, this list is going to be quite short. The only suspect interviewed by the police was Gerald Sepp, the driver of the tow truck, who had taken care of the car and dropped Blair off at the hotel. But he had no motive at all. He had never met Blair before. Maybe he had seen how much cash Blair had carried? But then again, why hadn't he taken anything? And finally, the DNA of the hair found didn't match Sepp's. No surprise, police dropped Sepp rather quickly. But what if Blair had been right about being followed? Had there been someone who tried to kill him, as Blair had told his mother? But who? And how could that person have followed Blair on his irrational road trip? And why should someone have wanted to kill a rather normal, harmless employee? Okay guys, we reached the point where I present my suspect, but in this case I have to admit that it is rather difficult. I think that Blair indeed had been paranoid and that no one ever followed him. When he walked aimlessly through the restaurants, maybe someone noticed him, maybe the unknown guy the witnesses saw. That guy lured him somehow to the construction site, they fought, Blair got killed with a baseball bat or crowbar. When the murderer then saw the large amount of money, together with gold and platinum, he panicked, thinking he had killed a drug courier or someone from the mob. He left the money and ran. And maybe a woman witnessed the scene and screamed. This theory is of course as bad as all the others, with a lot of holes. If a criminal really did all this, how big are the odds that this person's DNA never made it in the database? Do you have an idea? If yes, you have something to write in the comments. And when you are at it, leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I hope you liked today's very special episode, so please remember, guys and gals, comment, leave a like, subscribe, and if you want to donate some money, find my PayPal account down in the description. It will all go to the Ukraine. And that's the end for today. I am Mordecai Ffolkes. Have a nice day!